On Friday, November 15th, Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions bring you the highly anticipated heavyweight boxing mega event of the year. Jake El Gallo Paul will go toe-to-toe in the ring against Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. Don't miss this epic showdown live from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Watch Paul versus Tyson, Friday, November 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, live only on Netflix.
I've got a lot of grandbabies, like a lot. And when it comes to finding a gift for each of them, it could add up. But this year, while I was making my way through Walmart, I realized I don't have to spend a lot to get the gifts they'll love.
An OPI mini mani set. I'm gonna do so much nail art.
Oh, yeah! A Lego set. My own Awala water bottle.
Ooh, and that's just half of them.
Shop great gifts they're sure to love for $25 and under at Walmart.
Hello everyone, I'm Emmeline Mondo and this is Mondo Moments. Life is made up of millions of tiny moments. I believe one of our tasks as humans is to be present for as many of them as possible. When you reflect on the unforgettable events or incredible memories in your life, zoom in and there will be these little moments before or after the event that sit in the heart space. The moment you knew things would never be the same again, the hour you felt the shift, the minute that saved your life or the second that changed it. These are the moments that build movements. Sometimes they are global, and other times it's just the simple first step to change. Now, we are back with part 2 with Dr. Stephanie Kuku. If you haven't listened to part 1, please stop what you're doing and go and have a listen. It's really lovely to get the full picture of Dr. Kuku's journey. We're picking up this week where we left off with the life-changing moment that led to Dr. Kuku deepening her personal practice and reflecting on her life. She shares valuable advice that she learned from a relationship coach, advice from colleagues and friends along the way, and so much more. Let's get stuck in. It's a goodie.
Yeah, I think 2018, there's always that year where your life truly changes. I was pretty sure that I needed to look after myself, and the job had taken so much out of me. But also, when I tried to look 10 years beyond, I was sort of in my late 30s, I couldn't see a life. And I don't mean I am a consultant surgeon at Oxford. I don't mean I'm a partner at Goldman Sachs. I mean a life. I mean, I'm a fulfilled, balanced person with a dog and a cat and a partner who loves me and a child. I couldn't see a life. I felt like this job was going to consume me. And in many ways, I would have to sacrifice even more than I had sacrificed to reach where I'd reached. It taken me quite a while to process the whole thing. And I'd already started thinking about leaving. And then I was in this relationship that was, in retrospect, it was never, and I wasn't at the time. I still wasn't sure because I still was trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted. I wasn't sure about the final settling down, but I know that relationship was not right, but it was good for me in the sense that because I spent so much time, this is how it works. If you spend so much time looking at other people's deficiencies, it's a projection of the deficiencies that you haven't corrected in yourself.
Yeah. That's a deep one.
So I think that when I finally got the courage, and I think the courage to leave, to change my life, because I clearly wasn't happy, came from 2 people in my life who are actually the 2 most spiritual people I know. Interestingly, it wasn't my cool friends who were like, why are you leaving? What are you? It wasn't the cool ones. It wasn't the ones who are sort of have the sort of rigid. It was the ones who have been through journeys. Come out on the other side. My best friend, who's amazing. She's English South African. She's an artist. She's a hippie.
Yeah, I always hear about her. She sounds so fab.
She's been telling me about meditation since we were 30 years old. 30. I was partying and working my ass off. Meditation didn't even. In fact, I think she gave me a course of TM, Transcendental Meditation classes for my 30th birthday. I don't think I would use them. But as I was coming into that sort of place of leaving, I started. Clearly, when I got to place where I thought something has to change, I went back to the meditation because she brought it up again. So I went to the course, but it wasn't until I had resigned and I had been to that dinner and I had done a lot of things that I thought, you know what, there's stuff you need to fix in yourself. And so I accepted that. And then one of the things I thought was, I really want to kind of do more to discover who I am. So I read books. I did the morning pages, which, my best friend sent me the book about why you should read. It's so funny to look back on the things you write.
Is it was it with The Artist's Way, morning pages, or another one just about
how it helps?
How it
I
helps?
can't remember what the book was, but it was about why you should just get up and write, even if you just, I don't know what to write, but sometimes it's manifestations. It's writing out, I will do this, I will do that.
Yeah,
and I did that for a while. But yes, I think that I needed to find an anchor, which was looking at things, when you're really making a big change, what's the harm in trying things that you haven't really kind of properly delved in? That's the way I saw it. And in that, I found some peace. I felt so calm. It's a state of mind. It's a way, even the woman in Sainsbury's who knows me will be like, oh, Stephanie, you seem so much calmer. What's happening? I'd be like, lots happening.
So wait, tell me, let's get a little deeper. When you were, the morning pages, the searching in a way, did you know what you were looking for? When it's a sort of like find myself, was it an identity outside of medicine? Was it the self that could bring you to the life that you couldn't quite see? Was it a softer self? Like, are you able to identify what it was you were looking for, or what it is within you that you knew you wanted to challenge or change?
This is such an interesting one. Yeah, I think I was looking for, it was like I had been something that I thought was expected of me. And I had done that. I hadn't found my whole self. And so I think I was looking for identity. I think I was looking to recenter myself so I can find other interests. I could find, really center myself in my next direction. But also I think I was just looking for calm and freedom. I was looking for freedom. I can't explain.
Yeah. Freedom in time, freedom in your mind, freedom in your body.
I was just wanted to be free. I just wanted to.
What is freedom?
Freedom is truly, truly, truly making choices of your own. Freedom is, some people think freedom is money. I think that freedom is making choices solely because in your soul, you alone feel that that's good for you. And that is going to take you to your best self, to your highest potential. You make those choices. But freedom is also autonomy. And it's the same thing, autonomy. And when I use autonomy, I say, autonomy is feeling like you have control over your life, which a lot of doctors don't.
Oh.
Even now I speak to them, my cousins, my friends' younger sisters and brothers, or, people who come to me for mentorship. And I don't say to all of them, I know things are stressful and it's been a horrid year, please leave medicine. No, I say, if you love this, it's sacrifice. You do it and you love it and you enjoy the journey. But don't think that the world is easier out there. Don't think that you can just find, no, it's not, And this will be the best job you ever do. It doesn't mean that you're not going to fulfill your potential in other ways or do interesting things, but it'll be the best job you ever do. But you know what? Not all of us want a job.
Yeah.
or
yeah.
we want to work for the first half of our life. And then as I was nearing 40, I thought, I now want to create a career that fulfills me, that is mine, and I can do in my own time and on my own terms and earn what I'm worth.
Yes. I mean, that right there is a beautiful co-creation of a life that can be so fulfilling. And I feel that you're really working towards that now. You do have a dog. I've seen on Insta.
A puppy, she's so cute. And I'm going
and you're living with your partner.
Yes,
you're living with your partner,
and
right?
we're working on the baby part of things. So
Wow, that's
But
so wonderful.
obviously I wish I'd done it all of it earlier, but then if I'd done all of it earlier, I wouldn't have been through the journey, and I wouldn't have met the man of my dreams. Like, everything happens as it should. I wish I could tell my younger self that.
Yeah, I love that. Let's jump into that, because look, a lot of people who have been single in this pandemic, who are say like mid-30s, are panicking, like losing what feels like two very important years. And like you want, as you explored, like freedom, making your own choices. And then, as you've described as well, you arrived at a point where you got the things that were right for you on your timeline. So I guess the advice is to trust your journey, but there is definitely that feeling that comes sort of like mid-30s.
God, yes, but I have to say, I was too busy looking for freedom. There was a certain part of that looking for freedom. With that comes, and I've got this coach. I know we talked about my coach, and she's amazing. Like, everyone needs guidance. And she says, Stephanie, there's a part of you are the most driven, responsible person. You are completely, your life is centered around your sense of purpose and really understanding that and continue to evolve with that. But you have an avoidance of responsibility, which almost seems like a contradiction. But avoidance of responsibility was something for me that came with the fear that is really a projection of not really knowing who you are and what you want. So if you can either projects as avoidance of responsibility, or the fear just channels you to do what you think you should be doing and you make the wrong choices. I actually was more afraid of doing the wrong thing and being unhappy because that's what society expects of me. So I didn't go 35, my ovaries. I was working. I mean, to be honest, delivering babies. I didn't know about obstetricians. It put me off. I just thought, geez, no thanks. Oh, it's not for a long time.
Yeah.
It does happen. I'm not pushing anything out. That kind of thinking. But I do think that.
Did you ever think of freezing eggs?
Freezing.
Sorry to interrupt.
By the way, I've read 2 really interesting articles because I invest in companies, and I'm in sort of women's health innovation now, and the fertility space is so fascinating. I'm speaking to some girls now and looking at their company, but it's really what has come out of this pandemic actually is, of course, the women panicking and the egg freezing industry, which I'm sorry to say this is driven by men instilling fear, is balanced argument now of this whole why we created an industry to make money off women by selling hope and instilling fear. I didn't freeze my eggs. I didn't freeze my eggs because at the time, and even though like I would have doctors who would like show me the data and be like, but you should freeze your eggs. I had a really good friend whose wife had cancer. So she actually was the only person I knew who'd had a baby from frozen eggs. And I knew what the stats were. But at the time, I saw by the time I got to sort of, and this was like 35, when I was 35, that was 2015, it wasn't as huge. In the States it was. But by 37, when I was I knew I was going to change my life. I wasn't single, but I wasn't in a relationship that was going to lead me to having babies. But I didn't see it. I felt it was false reassurance because I would also see the other side, which was all these women going for IVF, mostly didn't have anything wrong with them. Stress, the fear that is instilled in women. Look at most people who need IVF. They don't have any endometriosis yes, there's a good proportion of women who have problems there's a male factor in fertility. But a lot of people who have IVF, they don't have any known problem. And that's because there's so much tension and fear and stress around the whole thing. Listen, I know what it's like. I'm going through it now. Yeah. It's kind of like you're suddenly aware that your body has to do something. So even if, and people say, just relax. And it's not that easy. But so many of my friends who froze their eggs, by the time they got to the stage where they were then super stressed, didn't get pregnant, and needed IVF, they never used those frozen eggs. It was always, let's do a couple of cycles of IVF because, if we get some fresh eggs, we'll try, even if you're 40. So it was never sort of, let's go straight into the freezer and get those eggs. Good evidence that there is some chance of having a child with frozen eggs. It doesn't mean that you are definitely guaranteed to have a child with frozen eggs, But I think that there is also a big market drive. That there is a lot of capitalism behind the egg freezing. And I think it's false. Looking back now, I was always someone who never wanted to settle down early and have kids early. But looking back now, I think I would say to women to do it earlier instead of freezing eggs was never going to reassure me. This is a long-winded way. Let me explain why I didn't freeze my eggs. I knew it was false reassurance. Yeah. It wasn't to reassure me. I knew that I had to do it and do it as soon as I could with the right person. But because I had eggs in the freezer didn't mean that I was going to be less anxious that I may never have a child. And I looked at the signs, and that was. So I think it's a personal decision of how you assess risk. I used to say this to women as a gynecologist. Everyone assesses risk differently. The way I assessed it, it wasn't going to reassure me having eggs in the freezer. I needed that to know that I needed to make decisions and get on with it, as opposed to freeze my eggs and and then just chill out. No.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is I feel like that's going to be very useful for a lot of people and an important insight. And I'm completely similar to you. I can't remember even as a young girl being like, oh, can't wait to I knew that I wanted a family, but it wasn't something I was longing for in my sort of young adult life. I was like, I want to travel. I want to party. I want to, and I do eventually want family, but I'm curious about these conversations. Round about this time. And this freezing eggs thing has come up a lot.
If you think that you are one of those, I have friends who they need that reassurance to pay that money, take hormones. I didn't want to take the hormones. I didn't want to stimulate it necessarily. In my opinion, I just didn't want to take a big dose of hormones to have eggs in the freezer, because those eggs in the freezer, even with the stat, were not going to reassure me. But there are some people who are reassured that it gives them, if that's you, then go and freeze your eggs. But it's not a choice that it's personal.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I'm aware that it was coming up to an hour, and I've got so many other questions I want to ask you. So the moment that you knew that your life was about to change or taking a new direction, and the practice that followed it, I feel like you just said that's 2018, right? Is that your moment?
I think so. But you know what? Actually, I think that if you say the moment that I realized that I had to change, and the practice that followed, but the moment that I think that I actually that I knew deep down, no matter what your fears are, because change is scary, but God, nothing exciting happens without a big change. And the moment I knew was actually a breakup at the end of 2017. And I was watching Stupid Hours in the cancer hospital in Chelsea, where, it was opposite there. And there was something about that breakup. And it was a friend of mine. This is not my best friend, but the other friend of mine. She's actually a relationship coach, Naomi Cambridge. Look her up on Instagram. But she said something really interesting. And it was really around why I was with this person and why we then split up. She says, Stephanie, it was, when I think about it was hard at the time, but God, it was amazing. Do you know why we judge others? Have you ever thought about why? There's a lot of judgment about this person. But do you know why we judge others? And she said, I think we judge others because of 3 reasons. Because there's something we see in them that we don't like about ourselves. However much you don't want to see it, how different they are to you. Because there is something that you want to discuss deeply with them that you haven't had. So, you have a fear of deep conversations or serious, intimate conversations. And lastly, because they have a freedom you don't have, that you want. And that was so important, because that really made me think about, I'll never forget this moment. And I remember where we were, we were having dinner in a place in Mayfair. And when she said that to me, I went home, because I was already in that place thinking, how am I going to make my exit? How am I going to have the courage to change my life? But it just goes to show that the person we are, and this is why I have leadership coaching and life coaching. Who we are is who we are. Who you are in a relationship is who you are in fulfilling your potential. It's who you are in your career goals and who you are in fulfilling your financial goals. You are one person. You're just different forms in those. And I think that everything she said was sort of pointing to the fact that you can't have deep conversations. The first deep conversation you need to have is with yourself. What do you want? Who are you?
Yeah.
You see things in yourself they don't like. Yeah, maybe it's avoidance of responsibility that we
Yeah.
and you have a freedom you don't have. You want freedom. You want the freedom to curate your life and have autonomy as much as you can. We're not all going to have all the freedom, but to curate your own life as much as you can. It's hard to do that when you have a mortgage and 3 kids. And I'm sitting here. I have to be very practical. That I know that that's not easy for everyone, but it's something that I live by anyway. And until I'm sort of, I have zero freedom. You know, the child, the dog, you know, all the responsibilities. I will try and live by it as best as I can.
Wow. I mean, that breakdown of judgment of why we judge is so accurate. It was actually quite moving because you know it as soon as you hear those 3 points and you really get honest with yourself, it's like, oh, right, yeah.
But those, you know, those 3 things in judgment, the sort of, they then led me to then, as you say, the shift was, how do I have deeper conversations with myself? I meditate. I find my calm. How do I sort out the avoidance of responsibility? I sort my shit out. How do I find my freedom? I resign from the job that is making me unhappy and find my way, even if I'm scared and afraid. That was the shift. That was a big shift. I mean, there were many for me, but that was one.
Wow. And then I guess remembering that as you move forward. On this avoidance of responsibility, I was listening recently to, it was Brené Brown's podcast, and she was speaking to, I can't remember the doctor's name, but just briefly, because it's so in line with what you said. And when she broke it down like this, I took a moment just to reflect on it. She said a lot of people avoid responsibility, and the way you should think of it is this: when you enter a car, if you sit in the back seat, you don't have any responsibility, but you're sitting back and the driver is taking you where they want to go. And if you sit in the driving seat, you have the responsibility, but you don't have the freedom of sitting in the back seat and saying, oh, I don't have any responsibility. The thing about that back seat, though, is that it's a full sense of freedom. So you think you're free because you don't have the responsibility, but actually you also don't know where you're going. So, it's Dr. Edith Eger, she interviewed. And she said, the question is, what seat do you want? You know, what seat do you want in your life? And I just thought, as someone who can relate deeply with the avoidance of responsibility, you think it's all great in the back, I've got nothing to, but you are then not driving that car. And so it's a risk that you've got to take, you know?
All I think when I look on Instagram is, God, there's so many of these women just got their shit together way before me. It doesn't matter. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter when you get there because so many of those women still haven't had my experiences. And you don't, that's the thing. It's not about getting your shit together, excuse my language, and also you can't tell if people are where they want to be. That perception, you know, it's like, Toronto, like 2012, I went to this big surgical conference for young doctors, and I was chosen to represent like Britain, and it was really cool. And all these doctors they asked, well, what is success? And you know, like the Italian woman with like 4 kids, surgeon, cancer surgeon, PhD professor, she's like, success is just being the way she reeled off stuff on a PowerPoint. It's like basically I took that as success means being perfect. I'm like, no, you're not my role model. And this American surgeon came on and he was like, success is knowing you've done everything to be the best you can be. And he said, I do that by making friends of all ages from all walks of life because I need that constant inspiration. Sweet. I mean, God, this was almost 10 years ago and I remember it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't go on Instagram and think, why didn't I do all the things that I wanted to do before why did it take me to get to 37 to have that big shift? I think I have had I'd done so much before, and then I was at a mature stage, then shift and potentially do more. And most importantly, everyone has their own journey. But, I listened to you yesterday briefly on Instagram Live, and I can't, she said something about, they're talking about, stay in your lane. But, some of us don't want to be in one lane. And that's exactly what I'm like. That's exactly what, people are like, what do you do? I'm like, I advise companies, I invest in companies, I do research, I'm writing a book, all these things. Like some of us are just sort of birds. We fly everywhere.
To be in the fullness of yourself, I think always as a woman, there's always more than one thing going on, as humans. But I do think it's something about, the way we're even made up. We're just bouncing between so many different things. We're listening with our friendship groups, we're carers, we're lovers, it's many things.
Yes. I try and help women when they connect and say, can you help me? It's mostly community. And I think like us, we met at a random dinner. Yomi, we have to shout out Yomi Abiola, who's
oh, absolutely. Well, Yomi is, I reached out to her when I was like, it's International Women's Day and I want to gather just incredible, like fabulous women who were soul led, also brilliant, but just like, I wanted to be moved. And she was, she had the twins on the way.
It was a really great day. I remember watching her get out of a taxi, and like she had twins and she couldn't and I walked into that dinner laughing at her, and she's like, Stephanie, I cannot believe you're laughing at me because I was pregnant. I couldn't get out. I couldn't lift myself out of the car. It was such a wonderful day. And it was such our meeting in that International Women's Day dinner in 2018 just beautifully coincided with this sort of shift that I was making, but it was like the final nail, because it was just kind of like I sat at that dinner with all these amazing women, and I thought, and they were researchers and scientists and lawyers and filmmakers and singers and models, musicians, and I was just like, yeah, you can't live one life, multiple lives, multiple futures. That's one of my coaches said to me, multiple futures, Stephanie. We live, we peak, and then we die. So the key to life, before you peak, jump onto another curve and live another life. Oh, and I wish I had a pen I could draw. I love drawing and writing notes. And it's sort of the curve. You think of the peak of the curve, but before you start declining, you just go on another curve. So you kind of go up again, and then you go up again. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Before we go, I just thought that there might be a young aspiring doctor listening, or a young woman who loves science, and I wondered if you had any words, because I know that, as you've expressed, that you do help young women when you can, and you're like, very responsive on LinkedIn if people reach out to you and want advice. Any tips for any younger women who are at the beginning of their career?
If you're doing medicine, it's been a tough year. Stick with it. The journey is make the journey your own. The system is hard, but do it for as long as it feels you and you're passionate. Find something that really interests you and stick with it, because I'm doing all these amazing things at the moment, but it would be the best. It will always be, medicine will always be the best thing I've ever done. And I wouldn't be doing all the amazing things I'm doing now if I didn't do what I did for as long as I did. So, hone your craft and be an expert, and then you can do other things as well. To women in science, STEM, tech, engineering, the future is STEM, the future is science, the future is tech. I was reading I just done a post about it today, actually, the World Economic Forum gender gap report, and it says that if you look at the jobs of the future, the pandemic has changed things, but things were changing before. If you look at the jobs of the future, AI, data, automation, there are not enough women. Like, women are still really underrepresented. Those are the jobs of the future, and I see it happening. Women doing the most extraordinary things in building the new world. And so it's super exciting. Find mentors, find communities, reach out to people randomly, because that's what I did. And I'm still doing it till today, reaching out to people randomly. And it's been great opportunities. And so, I think it's a very exciting time for women. I know people say, oh, the pandemic has pulled us back 100 years. Yes. So get help where you can.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been so glorious. I can speak to you for hours and I could so easily. It's so hard doing these because I just don't want to stop at an hour. Thank you so much for tuning in to part 2 and joining me on this beautiful journey with Dr. Kuku. Now, there's one bit that we didn't cover, or one area. It's pretty big and it's also very important. And that is the rate in which Black women are dying in childbirth in the UK and the US. We have decided that we might do this in a live or as a bonus episode, so please let me know what you would like. There are so many statistics and information that we can look over and speak to Dr. Kuku about. So DM me, drop me a tweet, an email. I'd love to hear from you about what might serve you the most. And finally, you know the drill. If you have enjoyed this episode, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Bye.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. 800-951-6756. 800-951-6756. That's 800-951-6756. Paid for by Airtime Media. You know, the average hospital visit can cost you around $12,000. So, do you have that kind of extra money lying around if you get sick? Me either. That's why health insurance is so important. Today, you can get health insurance plans for a couple of dollars a day and have health, vision, and dental insurance for you or your whole family. If you're moving or changed or lost your job, we have health insurance options perfect for you. What if you need health insurance for only a few months? We have short-term insurance options ready for you right now with fast approvals and cheap rates. Whatever kind of health insurance you need, we have it. One quick phone call and we'll find you the best health insurance options for you and your family for free. Call this number, 800-352-7084. 800-352-7084. 800-352-7084. For your free health insurance quote, call 800-352-7084. Paid for by healthinsurance100.com.